following program is classified G. It's suitable for all ages.
Tonight, is Sri Lanka's tea industry in jeopardy? With the pandemic running rampant within the country affecting all sectors of the industry, is Sri Lanka's world-renowned brand of Ceylon tea losing face on the international stage, along with agricultural developments that will possibly reshape the landscape of what the world knows as the perfect brew? Despite the virus spreading globally, the competition still remains fierce. Can Sri Lanka sustain its position among the giants of the global market? Good evening, I'm Suzanne Shanali. Tonight, Derana and The Morning investigates. Reopening the country was everyone's demand during the past few months because of the notion that resuming day-to-day operations and businesses would somehow restore the country's pandemic-hit economy. However, that does not apply to all industries, especially those who depend largely on exports, even if their operations within the country return to normalcy. Tonight, we investigate. The tea industry is one such sector among other export industries that were affected by the pandemic. The minimum wages issued, chemical fertilizer ban, logistics pertaining to exporting tea, and losing foreign markets are the key reasons why the revival of this industry as an export industry remains an uphill battle. According to industry experts, the newest challenge and priority is to reach out to the international markets, for which promotion is necessary. To look into the present situation, we spoke to the Colombo Tea Traders Association, or the CTTA chairman, and former Tea Exporters Association chairman Jayantha Karunaratne, and the Dilma Chief's Executive Officer Dylan C. Fernando, who noted that despite the pandemic this year, tea production has increased and that Sri Lanka, however, needs to focus on export markets and promote Ceylon tea to revive pandemic-affected international sales. According to Karunaratne, even though there are mixed reactions with regard to the tea industry situation, this year Sri Lanka has produced about 25% more in terms of the crop compared to previous years.
But the exporters are unhappy that there are restrictions of importation or imports of packing materials required for packing. The producers are very unhappy about controlling or banning your imports of chemical fertilizer and pesticides. So the currently that we have not seen anything to show that this tea industry has not performed well, but we have performed well. But only thing is, we are looking forward and we expect some problems if this current situation continues. But only thing we can complain is that the progress or the growth is slow, or maybe there is no growth. But there are many reasons for it. One thing is that we need to improve quality of tea, and we need to get better markets and do more promotion. During the pandemic period, the tea trade worked very closely with the government, Sri Lanka Tea Board and Minister of Plantation Industries. So we got required permission to work, and also by following health guidelines. So everything moved the way we want, and there were no sort of a restriction of us working, and we were given permission to work.
Adding that the government can help the industry by promoting Ceylon tea in order to bring back some of the markets the country has lost, Karunaratne noted that some of these markets are kind of stagnant and looking for new markets.
So I think what the government can do is, to promote Ceylon tea overseas, and also to try and reduce cost. But recent, the producers are unhappy about very high wages, and also high cost of production, various other issues. So I think the government can make it more simple for producers and exporters to work to achieve our final goal to get a bigger market share and a higher price for Ceylon tea.
Fernando also expressed similar opinions concerning the need to pay more attention to tea exports and international markets, adding that Sri Lanka's tea industry is full of potential and that there are incredible opportunities in the market. He observed that there are also tremendous challenges, the most significant one being the culture of the giving discounts for tea products.
Internationally, yes, tea is recognized as an immune booster. That's fantastic. Tea is a natural beverage. There is premiumization that we are seeing happening in many countries, and Sri Lanka can step up and harness some of those benefits because we have a premium image, we have a great product, we have the heritage, we have the provenance, we have the regulatory mechanisms. And so within that, I think what we lack is a clear direction so that all the industry, whether it is a smaller exporter or a larger one, align behind a common national policy, quality, quality, and quality, because there is a cycle, you can say a spiral of decline that happens when you follow a price mentality. And what we are seeing in the global market is that if any brand responds to the discount culture and the pressure, you have a situation where with COVID sensitizing the market, the trade, to an extent consumers to price, you have a growing emphasis on discount culture, but you also have an opportunity with the consumer that understands the importance of natural products, because COVID has also sensitized customers to the importance of food safety, to importance of natural food and beverage. And tea, particularly Ceylon tea with its regulatory mechanism, is a herb that is without equal in terms of its natural purity, in terms of its antioxidant benefits and so on. So we have an opportunity. But what we need to do is we need to align our industry to forego the short-term temptation of following discounting and price and go with the premium image, because we can do it together where everyone stands together. But if anyone breaks ranks, ultimately that means that you compromise the image of Ceylon tea as a whole. And that means lost revenue potential and lost value addition to Sri Lanka.
Among other challenges are congestion at ports and the lack of availability of shipping opportunities, according to Fernando.
So there have been external factors. So India was affected by crop shortages due to extreme weathers, due to COVID significantly. Africa has a different situation connected with oversupply and prices and so on. But I think in general, the tea industry has sustained itself well. And I think that if the industry focuses on the strategic opportunity we have as against other tea producers, I don't think that there has been a sustained problem with the tea sector. There is no sustained decline, but on the contrary, if you compare the first half of 2021 against the first half of 2020, you had drought at that time, you had much more favorable weather, and therefore this year you have better crop and you have better output. And the export sector has also sustained itself better because the markets in which we operate have significantly opened up. Yes, there's issues in Asia, but if you look at the US, look at Europe, they are beginning to come to grips with the management of COVID. You're seeing a similar situation in the Middle East. So I would say that the opportunities for the tea sector are tremendous, but the challenge is building that strategy and defining where Sri Lanka sits within the global tea sector in order to understand that we are not a competitor to Vietnam, we are not a competitor to China, we are a quality producer with a unique heritage, unique provenance.
With tea being one of Sri Lanka's major exports, how impactful has the pandemic situation been on the country's most formidable industry? We investigate after the break. Welcome back everyone to Investigates. Let's now look into the effect of the pandemic and other recent developments on the tea industry. Here's the rest of our investigation. The prevailing pandemic situation affected every industry in different ways, and how it affected the country's export sector was a topic of discussion in the recent past, due to it being one of the main avenues through which Sri Lanka generates foreign exchange. Even though those who spoke with us claimed that tea production had continued despite the prevailing issues, they all agreed that the pandemic has affected the industry mainly due to the increased cost associated with the COVID-19 related measures. Adding that the pandemic situation affected the overall performances of the industry because it increased costs significantly, Fernando said that the tea companies were compelled to introduce infrastructure that had never been considered before.
We have parallel transport networks, precautions that are completely alien to us, but it is the new operating environment. And I think what is most important for us now is not to become like deer in the headlights when we confront COVID, but to look at these solutions, because I must say that we have a practical approach that has been defined by the government. We need to work within that and set up our own processes and protocols. It is going to cost money, which supports the fact that we need to reposition Ceylon tea, or we need to take our due position as a premium product, as a country that produces quality tea, because that is very sustainable for Ceylon tea. But the challenges that the tea industry faced from COVID-19 were no different to what every other industry confronted. But we were fortunate in that the government took a very pragmatic approach to permitting the export industries to continue. So yes, the operational issues, but having the ability to isolate, to resume business whenever there was an instance of a COVID positive case, and having a very practical approach to the management of the situation helped us. On the tea plantations, of course, it was less of an issue in some cases, but latterly we've had quite a number of infections, yet that has been contained by the practical approach. And I think more than anything, the recognition of the importance of the export sector has helped us, because the export sector is become more prominent as an engine of growth, of course, where foreign exchange also is concerned. But acknowledging the importance of permitting the export industries to continue to operate has really helped us, because we've had a practical framework and we've been able to continue to export. The rest of the world has been in different stages of pandemic. And the thing is, we're going to have to learn to live with this, but we are also going to have to learn to allow our economy to continue. And I think that's what we are seeing where the tea industry is concerned.
Due to the pandemic, the CTTA had changed their auctioning system from manual to electronic, according to Karuna Ratna.
The pandemic affected, us from March last year. When it started affecting us, Sri Lanka tea export industry, we changed the auctioning system. Colombo Tea Traders Association got together and we changed the manual auctioning system to electronic auction or e-platform. So we sold the selling part of this tea at the Colombo tea auction. Also, with following health guidelines and with permission, the tea industry worked during the pandemic time. The people plucked tea, it was manufactured on estates, and also it was transported to Colombo, it was stored in Colombo, it was sold at the auction, and also the exporters purchased it, processed it and exported it. So everything went on, the value chain did not stop. The tea industry was an industry where we did not stop anything. It did not affect our work in Sri Lanka. But in overseas, we have problems in the sense some markets are not, some buyers or some supermarkets are not working as usual.
The plantation sector workers struggled for a minimum daily wage of ₹1,000, which was perhaps the most discussed topic about the industry in the recent past, is reasonable as they too have the right to enjoy better living conditions, according to Fernando.
So where the estate workers are concerned, they are absolutely critical to the success of Ceylon tea. And we need to acknowledge that, because it is that artisanship that starts with the worker that has helped Ceylon tea maintain its quality. Now, you have also a very unique situation, because we have inherited in the 21st century a very colonial industry. You have nearly 1 million people living on the estates who you can classify as the estate population, but less than 200,000 of them, I think less than 175,000 even, who work on the estate. So the housing, the education, the medical, etc., those are all issues that need to be addressed significantly by the estate. So you have a discrepancy, but the estate workers, they have a right, they have the aspirations and so on. So coming to the issue of wage, our position would be society has developed, the workers have a right to expect more, but in order to ensure the sustainability of the industry, it is important that we ensure that we don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And so for this reason, there is still dispute. And I think we're significantly close to a practical and a positive outcome, where we're simply saying, look, connect that increased wage with attendance and connect it with productivity, because quite simply, it's not that the plantation companies are doing brilliantly. I mean, there's colossal amounts of debt, and the sector itself is facing an existential crisis because of the discount culture that I spoke of earlier. And so we need to be mindful of that. We need to make sure.
We also saw the industry experts' opinion about how the government's plan to switch to organic fertilizers from chemical fertilizers, which was relaxed by Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa recently through a gazette notification to allow the importation of certain chemical fertilizers, may affect the industry. While acknowledging that the government's move is a good one as far as long-term benefits are concerned, they said that the tea industry may face issues related to production. They have already commenced discussions with the government in this regard.
The tea industry has appealed to the president and to the ministers, to delay implementing of this decision, because we all believe, or we feel, that this is not the way to do. That soil fertility is important, that we need to improve the soil condition, but the chemical fertilizer is needed because this tea is produced and exported, and it's a commercial product. So we have appealed to the government to delay this ban, or maybe not to implement it until we are ready with the organic fertilizer. Also, we believe that 100% organic fertilizer will not solve the issue of to get the required volume or required quantity for tea. We have to use both the organic and chemical fertilizer for production of tea for exports.
So we are advocates of sustainability. But the important point here is the objective is laudable. It is probably groundbreaking in a very significant sense, and it is a good one. The pathway to achieving that objective is what we need to consider. So the debates that are happening right now with discussions amongst the task force, etc., these are all discussions that should have happened some time ago. So whilst we accept that the objective of Sri Lanka becoming organic significantly and sustainable to a large extent, where it concerns the soils and so on, must be balanced by the current condition of the soil, by the time we require to build the infrastructure that's going to give us.
Plantation Minister Dr. Ramesh Patirana had recently said that taking into account the fertilizer needs of the tea industry, the government would ensure that the tea industry receives adequate fertilizers. He had further revealed that the country's tea production in the first half of this year had grown by 24%, which is the highest growth in Sri Lanka's history. Meanwhile, the company estate reforms, tea and rubber estates related crops cultivation and factories modernization and tea and rubber export promotion State Minister Kanaka Herath and recently said that despite the prevailing pandemic, the tea industry has the potential to grow further. He had further said that in a context where around 30% of the foreign exchange is generated by the country's plantation sector, including tea, attention has been paid to revive these industries. Amidst all forms of economic burdens, one of the biggest challenges the country is facing currently is diminishing foreign reserves, as the country's export and tourism sectors, among other key sectors, have been severely affected by the pandemic, according to the government and economists. Even though the authorities are making efforts to revive the export sector, including the plantation sector, industry experts who spoke to us highlighted that in addition to increasing production and helping the industry locally, there is a pressing need to promote Ceylon tea internationally and win international markets. Thank you for taking the time to join us on Investigates. Investigates will return next week with another matter that affects you and me. Till then, see you soon.